All right, hey, welcome back. Whew, what a morning. I don't know, well, people online don't know, but I'm stuck in traffic for an hour and a half today. So I'm running late in my head. All right, 3 projects to work on for today. We're going to do a garment adjustment, what it's called. We are going to do another product placement, but easier yet harder than the original one. And then we're going to do another like special effects, creating a chrome effect on type. You'll be happy to hear they all kind of get easier from here. The effects, the special effects, you did the hardest one. The flame one is probably by far the toughest, but then everything will become easier because you've worked with a lot of hard stuff. So I want to start with the garment adjustment. So let's talk about why we do this stuff. And you're like, well, I don't know. Why would I do this? So we have items. And just like the product change, garments change a lot. And this is the one I feel like I see the most when you're doing Amazon, is like you click for one and you're like, what about that set of shirts? Oh, what about that shirt? Oh, wait, it's basically the same thing. And all they did was have somebody go in and make the color change. Here's another one. I love this one. Oh, hey. Wait. I got to get the right ones. Oh. He hasn't moved, yet his shirt has changed so many times. How does he do that? He's a perfect model. No, they just go in with one shirt and they change the colors to the brand colors. You know, like what are we selling? What are the colors? All that kind of stuff. So moving my shit around. That's what, you know, why we're doing this. So what I want you to do, and here's my tricks and tips, because you guys know how to do colors, and I'm going to talk a little bit more. I'm not going to do this one for you. You know what to do, but let's go to it. 6.2. You're to change, and I'll show you an example of a student. You're to find a person in a dress. Let me make that bigger for everybody. A person in a dress shirt, a person in a dress, a person in dress pants, a person in a hat, and a person in a jacket. Now what you're going to do is these items all need to change to the same color. Fairly easy. You've already done a color change with the car, but now you're working maybe with different items in a different color background, in a different, like, meaning the background meaning like you should probably start by trying to find the cleanest you can find, like a white dress shirt, a white dress pant, you know, like go easy, and then the color changes will be easier to do. Now, one thing to talk about, and which I'll do it in the other project I'm going to show you, is getting those items to then match and not look goofy. So you have to use those adjustment panels. It's just not putting in the shirt, it's then adjusting it. So let's just do it. I'm going to take this guy. Oh, dress shirts. Let's do a dress shirts. This guy's in a dress shirt. Perfect. Save image as. And I'm just going to do it to desktop. Save. Then go to File, Open, Desktop, Open. Now I got the dress shirt. And, you know, like however you want to, you know, select it out, go for it. For this, I'm just going to go quick and dirty. I got his hand in there, but I can remove his hand easily. And then for me, I think I'm going to copy and paste it so I have that on a different layer. Now, what should I do? I'm going to do, you know, let's do hue and saturation. And then you can start messing about. Oh, I want to do probably colorize, and I want to make sure I'm on the down one, and then, you know, let me crank it. But you got to look at it. And so the color you're picking first is the color that they all have to be in the end. So they all have to look like they're the same company. Now, you can do this and we can find some. One, nobody wears a shirt this bright. So your first part about Photoshop, and the best thing you should learn is Photoshop shouldn't look like you Photoshopped it. So unless you know of a garment that can be this bright of a green, like don't do it this bright, like do it a normal color, like find that normal color and like get in there and adjust, like, oh, I want it like there, you know, like, oh, you know, find a nice color, and then you're going to match accordingly, lightness, brightness. And then the other stuff is doing other adjustments. So that's just one adjustment. But like, what if I want to make sure there's like highlights and better shadows and lowlights? So I'm going to start like playing around more. I'm going to do this. Why did that happen? Oh, I know. Why did that switch down? That's a weird glitch I've never seen happen, guys. To duplicate a layer and then have it change everything but what it is supposed to be. How weird was that? There. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. There it is. All right. So now I got this one. So what I did is I have my normal. Oh, it really just does not like me doing that. So that's my teal. So I made a duplicate of the shirt because I want to make sure I got some highlights and like some sheens and stuff. And so what if I just start playing darken, multiply? Oh, see, now if I multiply that, look at what it does to the shadows. Here, they're just like muted. Now I got some shadows showing up and I got some brighter highlights showing up. Like this is starting to look like a shirt, you know? And then you can go in and you can go crazy, you know, really go in and be like, well, on his shirt, maybe like the buttons should be a little bit shiny. So I want to make the buttons shiny. So you can go in and paint like a little sheen on each one. So I'm going to make another layer, just white. Paintbrush. Let's do a little. Doesn't take much, just a couple clicks, you know? Hey, tone that down just a little bit. Go down to 50. You just want a little highlight, just a little, you know, like showing just a little difference. You know, of course, his hand looks like crap, but I'm going in and not leaving this. That's flat, unappealing, doesn't work. This needs to work better. So then I did this, then I added some highlights. I have darker darks, higher, you know, higher highlights. This isn't the only way to do it though. This is that whole thing when I talk about Photoshop. How do I Photoshop? A lot of it's just experimentation. Try something. Did you ever try doing, you know, said, you know, this part, like I could do. So I did it that way. And I got this. And I'm going to do Option or Control. There we go. I got that again. And I'm going to make a new layer. Put it up there. I'm just going to turn off everything else. And what if I just did a fill, you know, like, oh, well, I can try and I want to start with a fill color. And I'm going to go with red and then edit, fill, foreground color. Okay. Deselect. There, I'm done. Just kidding. Just kidding. But then now, like, okay, what do I do here? Let's try some of these. How do these look? Ooh, that one has like some of the white pop through, but it still looks bad. You know, like, and I'm just going through and you try out different versions, like, but in the end, they all need to look the same. So if I do darken, and then I can bring down this slider, you know, and that's pretty good. And then like I always like doing, I'm gonna make a copy of this and then bring that up because I already know like it's got the multiply set on. And so that's looking pretty good. And then, like, so that's another way to make the shirt a color and work with it. What if I take this and this, and on this layer, let's do more layer adjustments, but I'm gonna work with the curves. I always like curves. I'm gonna make sure it's set. But here I can adjust those curves, and I gotta see why it busted my thing out. But you know, it's changing the color, but it's another way to make adjustments. Go back to layers, turn that back on. So I'm just not happy with that system right now. There we go. Turned it off on the one and not on the other. So here then, you know, like me adjusting this, I can make those darkers dark. See that? And so like maybe I do like, oh, maybe I do like, I like it a little bit more emphasis on those shadows. It really makes kind of the shirt pop, and you look at other things. So think about all those things you can do, different ways to color the garment, and then you need to make them all look the same. I'm going to show you 2 student projects, and I'll kind of point out some of the stuff like this one, what, you know, worked better than the other and what they do. So before, after, before, after. Now with this one, I'm going to zoom in. See that? He's got an outline. You got to get rid of that. Like that totally shows that like, oh, like that's not looking good. So if you end up with that, not a good thing. We don't need to see that outline. It's very apparent, you know, and it makes like it sticking out. That shouldn't be there. So kind of keep that in mind. But the color from this page to this page, pretty spot on. It's just a cleanup. Nice looking cowboy hat. Good job. Like it's even got that orange reflection in it still. From this color to this color, spot on. Again, very well done. This one doesn't have the glow on it. This one, I think from this, if I'm looking across, this just ended up a little too dark as the overall purple, but it's pretty good. And look what the person did too. They took out the chain. You know, the chain isn't purple as well. So like, don't miss those little items. If you pick something and it's got a different color item, you got to remove that. So that's a pretty good shot. And then we have this guy, which is, this one's all right. This one's all right. Very hard to take something dark and make it light. They did pretty good job. But it does affect. You should, if you're working with something, you should try the lighter shirt, the lighter, you know, going lighter to darker is always easier. This is a bigger challenge, but give it a shot if you want. So I'm looking at the color change. Here, the shadows are really good. Here, they could be darker. The shadows could be shadowier. They turn into, they're just a little glowy. I know it's like velour, like shiny material. it's just not coming across perfectly. I think it just does need to be darker. It would reflect a little bit less of this background, like this beige background that she's on would be a little bit different, but it's close. It's just a little weird glowy. This one turned out really well. Again, doing dark colors, super hard. This one needs to be a lot lighter. I don't really see the, like it should be this color, you know what I mean? So this didn't turn out as well because they went from black to purple. Like they really needed to push that purple. And then this shirt is too bright. So a couple mistakes, but that first one I showed you is like the really good one. So if I have this, you keep one open and then you look side by side. And that's where you can use that, like window, arrange workspace, arrange them, like get them side by side, and you can work on one, work on the next one, and kind of go down the line. Don't shut one off and then do the next one and try to guess at what you did. Like that won't help. And then, a million ways to play around, a million ways to do stuff to get it to the way you want it. And then it's always like you're never really done. Like I even like that. It's one of those things like you can just keep going and going and going and going until you get it perfect. And that's how you do it. You have to look at life, and you're matching life here. And so matching life isn't, that's not that you change the color. You got step one done. I shake your hand, but I wouldn't hire you. I'd be like, oh, that's it? No, I want to hire the person who's like, no, I'm going to make the darks dark, and then I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to make sure the buttons have reflection, and I'm going to take out stuff. Like that's the cream of the crop. That's what Photoshop can do for you, for everybody. So 5 garments. It's in the assignment. And that's why we do it. I'm just, yeah. Oh, yeah. See it? Oh, no. Different. God, he's got that pose perfect. I think a couple of these. Yeah, this one. They colorized this one. And look what they did to the buttons. I think, no, his hand's moving. No, they got the models to really stand still on that one. Must be more expensive gear. So that is what you're supposed to do for garment color adjustment. Again, I don't want to see like glowing garments, like so bright. Like think about what your clothes look like and do that. No glowing. There's a lot of glowing cars. That toy car, a lot of them were really glowing. So, all right. Which kind of brings us into product placement part 2. All right. You have a man and a woman on a product. You are to remove the person and the product and put them into a new background. They are doing something. I will show you one. And then we'll talk more about this whole idea of like, all right, we got this guy. He's on an Indo board, and then you have a girl, she's on an Indo board, and this is a square format. So this would be like for social media posts, Instagram, whatever. But I don't know if you guys know how marketing works and all this stuff works. When we market, we market differently to different people, even though it may be the same product. So we want to hit on the consumer and what they're doing. So the Instagram or Facebook ad square may be targeted same product to different people. So we got this dude, and he's my age, rocking the Indo board. I actually do have one of these. But we want to be like, hey, they're car people. We need to get this out to car people. So let's like put doing this on a car. All right, let's do it. I found a picture of a car. Now what I'm doing is I'm not taking him out. I'm not shrinking him. He is the model. He needs to be front and center and big. So all those other ones, when we did the product placement and you made it as small as possible to hide it and like make it blend in. Well, now you can't. We need to see the product. It needs to be out there. And so you can do the same standard stuff of cutting the image out, placing it in, but then the artistry comes into making it look real. Making sure that the darkest darks match the darkest darks, the brightest highlights match the brightest highlights. The photo should look fully like the same. And so I picked this one on purpose. I found this hood of this car and I was like, it looks approximate. I can probably get it to look like he's on the hood of the car. And so my image, I had to adjust it. The image I found, I'm just going to duplicate it so I don't ruin it. You know, like it had more of the car, but my image is only up to here. And if I couldn't put the guy, so I had to lower it as low as possible, still have it look like a car hood, but usable. Now I needed to fill this background. So it was easy because it just went to this gray. And this is just gray. It is not pure black. As you can tell, this is a gray and this is a lighter gray, but it's not pure black. Note to self. The darkest dark in my picture is not pure black. I should think about that. I should really make sure that my darkest dark matches the darkest dark. And it is a little washed out. So I did my trick. I did my thing where I took my tool and I cut them out, right? And I made sure it was good. I did it once and actually I lost part of the board, but I'm making sure it's all in there, right? And then I do my copy paste and boom, I have him. Now I pasted him. He's the same size. Yeah, I didn't change his size, but I had to move him up because I want him to look like he's on there. Now, as you can see, he looks cut out and put in here. Why? Darkest darks don't match. There's nothing grounding him in this picture. It's all over the place. The other one that you didn't see that I did is on the cutout, it left a little notch underneath it, and I cleaned up the bottom of the board so it was smooth. All right. Now, first thing, shiny car probably needs a reflection. I always just do reflections toward us. Looks good. Second part, he needs to blend in more. So I'm just going to go into my curves and start making him blend in more. First one, adjust the brightness and curves. And like, I'm sort of like my term for this is I desaturated him. Made the darkest dark. See that? The darkest dark is now more in line with the darkest dark in the image. And then I went in and added one more, and I made just a little darker dark on just this inno board because it was looking flat to me. So I made it just pop just a bit. All right. And this is just stuff. How do I do? I'm just looking around. How did I get it just on that part? All I did was do that control, this, make a selection, make a new layer. So make a new layer. And then with him still selected, I just generally, do something and I take a brush and I make it big and I just go across. Like that. And that just constrains it to that area. See? It won't go anywhere else but where the marching ants are. And that's why I use that. And that's what I did here. But I used it, on a layer, and I made some layer adjustments to it to make it blend in a little bit more than it normally would have. Boom, look at that. It's got a reflection. How do you do a reflection? All I really did, I took the dude, however you want to do it, go back, we get the guy and do the fun. I'm on the right layer. Got it. Oh, it's missing. I got to turn everything off. I mean, I could duplicate that layer too. I'm going to make sure I get him and the board. All right. I'm going to copy, paste him, bring him up. Turn on this. You can see he's, I'll turn on this one. This is the one I'm working on. And all I'm going to do is go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. Bonk. Flips them upside down. Put it, behind there. And you're going to have to adjust. So see how this doesn't work? This doesn't line up. All right. Remember distort? I'm going to get it like lined up. I don't want a gap. Just like one pixel. I'm right there. And I'm just going to File or Edit, Transform, Distort. And let's bring up that edge. Let's get it to meet. Bring that one down. That's all I really need, for this. I just want it to meet right there. And then on that layer, because here's the one, I did a layer mask and just erased out. So Edit or layer mask, reveal all. Big old brush, make it even bigger. I want to paint black. And you just kind of take away what you don't want. Now, I can go back with the white, and I want my opacity at 50. I want to change my brush opacity because it's erasing like too much. And I want it to get it perfect. But then I don't want it, in front of there. So I can still play. If I like what I have, then what I'm going to do is I can drop my opacity here. Okay. And then I'm going to erase that stuff in front of the hood, which is just keeping the same brush, or not the same brush, same idea, but just knocking that down and then painting in black right here. And now his reflection ends at the hood of the car. He blends in more. He's gray, muted, because it matches the background. I added that little extra oomph there. And then I did something. I wanted to change his hand. And so like I went in and I darkened him overall a little bit more. But then I wanted his hand to pop. Like his hand is forward. And so I just made a dark gradation on him. And just so his hand would be like foreground for us. And then he goes into the back. And then you get that posted on Instagram, and there you go. Now we're selling the Indo board to dudes who have supercars. 2 different pictures, a man and a woman, just in 2 different situations. Different from. They need to be big. They need to stay the same size. It doesn't have to be a car hood. You have some fun, but I don't want this. I'm just going to say it a bunch here. We are not doing this time around. Like, oh, there he is. He's on top of the car. because that you can't see him. He's not part of the product, and that wouldn't work for what we're trying to do. So none of that. We need to keep relatively big size. But what I'm looking for is your ability to blend them in, blending them into the background, making them look like they're part of that image, not just, you know, being one and done like that. Like, oh, there he is. So think about, look at the pictures, the integration of two things, one into the other. All right, final one. Chrome. This one's pretty easy. There it is. I've included this font for you. Oh, I didn't download it here. The font is in the assignment. Just download it, double click on it. I actually need to double click on it. Check my downloads because it's giving me this error means it doesn't have the font. It's just kind of doing a representation, but I cannot adjust the font. So just like anything, if you're on a PC, you right click and extract all. I'm on a Mac, I can just double click, and then I'm just going to double click on that, wait for it to go, install, give it a minute, and then my layer should show up once it comes through. I have a car image. You're going to blur it. You're going to make the image the correct size per the instructions. You're going to bring that image in. You're going to blur it. You're going to add a filter on top. You're going to adjust the hue and saturation levels. See what I did? It's all in the instructions. And then you're going to make your type. And I will tell you, if you look at this, there's like 3 effects. It's doing that stuff where we work with, you know, like transparency and making the text a certain way, and just pop through it. You can see what happens, you know, like why are we doing so many layers and stuff like that. Here's number 1. Again, this is how far do you push it? How far? People would be happy. They're like, some people are like, oh, this looks great. I'm done. Well, but then the next person is like, well, no, let's push it. Like this then like really pops it. It goes from like dull aluminum to like chrome. And it's adding like just one more layer of like some changes. And that's all you need to do. Just like walk yourself through the steps. And then we add a blend layer on top to like, you know, I kind of like the orangey. Kind of blends it all in with the background. And that's the effect. It's just matching what I do. It is, again, this will take you a quarter of the amount of time that the flame one did, which then means you can spend more time on the cutout people and your garment matching. So is there any questions, comments, or concerns about that? Or what to do for next week? All right, great. Again, when we're dealing with photos and adding photos to photos, realism. When we're doing the garment adjustment, realism, darks, lights, removing stuff, not glowing colors. You know, nothing glows in real life, even like fluorescent shirts, whatever. If you choose like fluorescent yellow, good luck. That'd be a tough one. And then for your type experiment, just start seeing what things do. Why, you know, when I move these things, what is it doing to it? And just watch the development of your item. And, you know, if you zoom in and you're doing your effects, you know, like I turned that one off. That's what this contour is doing. What if I crank it, uncrank it? Like, what is it doing to my image? And then that's where you're like, oh, I like it there over somewhere else. So play around and figure out. That's why you're doing. You will now be able to do these things in the future. So cool. Thank you very much. Enjoy, have some fun, play around, discover. That's what Photoshop's about. So, and I'm around if you have questions, comments, or concerns. All right, take care. Thanks.